Hello my bookworms, welcome back to my channel. My name is Sydney. Today we're chatting about all the books that I read in the month of September. So hey, what's up, how are you? I hope you're doing well. Thank you so much for being here and hanging out with me for a little bit. I read 9 books in September and vlogged quite a few of them actually, and it was a really solid reading month, so let's get into it. First and foremost, I'm going to put these 4 books together because I did a reading vlog where I gave authors a second chance. Previously to that vlog, I had read books from these authors and I did not like them. So I decided to do a reading vlog where I wanted to see if the authors could redeem themselves in my eyes, and it was an extremely interesting experience. So I will leave that link down below to that reading vlog where you can get my in-depth thoughts and opinions, but I will give you star ratings. First is Crane Husband by Kelly Barnhill. I was extremely surprised from this book. It will be one of my most surprising of the year. I will be purchasing a copy for my own library because, as you can see, 3 of these are library copies, which I actually need to go return today. But this one I'm actually giving 4.5 to 5 stars. Next, I read Billy Summers by Stephen King. This one was just, in one word, meh for me. Ended up giving this one 3 stars. Next in that reading vlog, I read The Chalk Man by CJ Tudor. Absolutely loved this one. It was 4.5 to 5 stars again. And then last but not least for that vlog, I read The Only One Left by Rylee Sager and was very pleasantly surprised. There were quite a few twists at the end that were a little bit hard to keep track of, so I gave it a 4 to a 4.5 stars. Next is a series that I decided to pick up again because I want to try to read this series before the 3rd Crescent City book comes out, and by me saying that, it's probably pretty obvious what series I'm talking about, but it is Throne of Glass by Sarah J. Maas. I ended up picking up Throne of Glass and Crown of Midnight. These 2 were rereads for me. I made it up to page like 30 in Heir of Fire like 2 years ago and then got distracted. So I picked these back up, reread these. I am now halfway through Heir of Fire, and it was so much fun to be back in this world. These 2 books for me felt kind of like a little warm hug, and I don't know what that says about me because it's literally a story about an assassin. In the series within these 2 books, we're just kind of getting a glimpse at the magic system and the politics at play. We're really getting to know our main characters, Selena, Daryan, and Kayla, and I love all of them. I'm really excited to get further into the story and actually understand why people have such polarizing opinions on some of these characters, but so far I'm having a great time. I feel like I could give both of them a 4 stars, but if I were to, I don't know, be generous and nitpicky, I could do 4 stars and 4.5 stars. I'm reading these for fun. I'm not trying to be super heavy on the critique because that's not what I'm reading it for. I'm reading it for a good time, and that is exactly what's happening. I'm having a great time. Next, oh boy, this book, if you remember, was in my Spin the Bottle TBR as Avi's pick. So Avi chose this book for me, and it was Old Enough by Hayley Jacobson. This book kind of destroyed me. I'm giving this book 4.5 stars, first and foremost. This book is about a college-age girl, and even though at that age, you're still, you know, a young person, but some of the dialogue just felt like very young to me. So that occasionally took me out of the story, but other than those little moments that's really just like, I don't know, me being nitpicky or being just like mildly annoyed about the way that the author chose to write some of the dialogue is purely just like an opinion of mine. I don't think a lot of people will have an issue with it, but sometimes it just read younger than I thought it should. But the actual plot and storyline and what the story is about really tugged at my heartstrings, and it will go down as not a favorite book ever, but it will be one that I always recommend and one that I hold very close to my heart. There are trigger warnings for this book such as sexual assault, so make sure you check those out before you go into it and take care of yourself because it is a little bit heavy. But again, the dialogue surrounding that topic is almost like freeing. Like, it really kind of brings tears to my eyes remembering how I felt while reading and listening to certain parts of this book. Like I said, it's about a young woman in her first year of college. Her name is Savannah, and she has finally come out as bisexual, and she's getting close with the other queers in her dorm room, and she's almost finally feeling like she has a friend group that speaks to her, that she feels safe with, and that she could become who she wants to be. But there are relationships and friendships from her past that are kind of keeping her there, and it's a story about the growth of growing out of certain friendships and healing from past trauma. And again, it's written really well. I truly do love this book, and if you are okay with the trigger warnings, then I would highly recommend it. The last 2 books that I read in the month of September, I did an exclusive chatty reading vlog for over on my Patreon since the Wishing Game by Meg Schaefer was last month's buddy read pick, as well as Memento by Jay Kristoff and Amy Kaufman, which was my Greenhouse Compendium pick. The Greenhouse Compendium is basically a jar that I use every single month in my Spin the Bottle TBR game, where my patrons are allowed to submit books that they want me to read, that they recommend to me, or that they're just their favorite books and they want to see me read them. So every month I pick from that, and Memento was that pick this month. And first I'll chat about Memento because it is, I think, only like 95 pages or something really short. It's a novella within the Illuminae files, a 0.5 in the series, sort of, to give us a little bit more insight on Aiden, which is the AI that controls the ship that we follow within the Illuminae series. And I am so glad that I read it, first and foremost because it was fun to be back in the Illuminae world. And I want to say that I'm glad that I read this novella after I read the series, because in that trilogy you kind of form your own opinion on Aiden. Sometimes you love it, sometimes you hate it, and this novella really does just give you more of an insight and lets you learn about a certain circumstance that is talked about in Illuminae, but you actually get to follow it in Memento, and it's kind of messed up, but it was fun to read. Since it's so short and just kind of like a bite-sized story, it's a little bit hard to rate, but I feel like it sits at a 4 for me. Then the other book in that exclusive vlog is The Wishing Game, like previously mentioned. And if you watched my fall recommendations video, you'll know that this book is actually sitting at one of the most surprising of the year for me. I ended up giving this a 4 to 4.5. I think ultimately it's a 4 in my heart, but I surprisingly had so much fun with this story. And I say surprisingly because it's pitched as Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, but on a magical island. And I don't like Willy Wonka. That movie gives me weird vibes, and I was really nervous to read a book that was compared to it. But the vibes were great, the atmosphere was stunning, and the story was very fun. It's about our main character, Lucy? Lucy, I was right! Who is a teacher's aide and is actually trying to adopt one of the children. Christopher? Christopher. I remember things sometimes. Christopher's parents were in a horrible accident, and Lucy was actually there to help him get through it in some ways. But Lucy's home situation is not fit for a child. She has roommates, it's not really a clean house, she doesn't have a car, but she's been saving up money to do so. Now, when Lucy was a kid, there was a book series called Island Clock? Clock Island? Clock Island. I'm impressing myself. By Jack Masterson, who has been MIA, on a hiatus, not writing since this series. But now he has announced a new book, and there will be only one copy in existence, and he is inviting certain people to come to the actual Clock Island and participate in a series of puzzles and mind games for a chance to win the only copy of this book. And Lucy is one of those people that get to go. So we follow that situation. There is a minor romance subplot with a little bit of Grumpy Sunshine action going on, and the games are super fun. They're whimsical, and again, we're on sort of like a magical-ish island, so it's just fun. It's cozy, and I feel like it's a 4 for me. A really solid reading month, honestly. Only 1 3-star, and everything else was 4 to 5 stars. So really no complaints here. And again, I will leave the link down below if you want to check out the Greenhouse, which is my Patreon. We would love to have you join us, as well as the reading vlog for that Second Chance author vlog. But in the meantime, I would love to know down below what your favorite book of last month was, or if you've also read some of these titles, I would love to hear your opinions on them. But if you don't know what to say, then go ahead and leave, I think it's a maple leaf, that really pretty, you know, the fall maple leaf emoji, or just a leaf emoji, down below in the comments. And while you're down there, don't forget to subscribe and like the video. I always appreciate your support. And of course, be kind to one another, and happy reading. Bye.